Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dai Yeun Jeong from Jeju, South Korea. First of all, I would like to give my deepest thanks to organizing committee inviting me as a speaker at such a valuable conference. Okay, the topics of my presentation is the role and the capacity building of NGOs, non-government organizations, as agent responding to climate change. This is a social science approach. Most of your presentation are natural science-based topics, as the theme of this conference also shows very natural science-based approach to a reality. The catalysis, chemical engineering and technology, green chemistry and renewable energy. However, from social science perspective, the theme of your conference is a technology-based approach in a broader sense to the sustainable development. Okay, sustainable development is the very, very hard ideology and practice of the current and the future socio-economic development in a way to coexistence with nature. So all of the theme of your this conference is a technology-based approach to achieving sustainable development. In a narrow sense, we can say the theme of your conference is a technology-based approach to climate change. As you know, climate change is one of the environmental problems. However, among the all categories of environmental problems, such as soil pollution, water pollution, so many environmental problems, the climate change is placed at the top among the environmental problems because the impact of environmental problems on nature and society are different. However, climate change, its impact is most serious on nature and environment. That's why climate change is placed at the top of environmental problems. So there are so many agents responding to climate change, government or United Nations, and the citizens, NGOs. So I would like to present the role of capacity building. What's the major role of NGO and what capacity they have to build as the agent responding to climate change. Okay, this is okay. Yeah, I'm from Jeju Island, all right? It is between South Korean Peninsula and Japan. This is the outline I would like to present today. The first one, we have to have a look at what is the climate change. And also, there are some issues related to climate change. For example, climate change is a real reality or not, okay? We have such an issue. Then third part is the agent responding to climate change. NGO is one of the agents. Then overall rules based on the understanding about part 1 to 3, we can examine overall roles of NGOs as an intermediate group and what capacity should the NGOs build. Then concluding remarks. Okay, then definition of climate change. We have two different terminologies. One is weather, the other one is climate. When we watch on television, we can see, oh, today's weather, the temperature, and the possibility of raining like that. But the television does not say we will announce today's climate. Okay, so weather and the climate is different. All right. Yeah, the very simple definition. Have a look at weather is the state of atmosphere at the given time and place, today or tomorrow, or next week. Long-term point of view, next month. This is weather. So, for example, when we have the information on weather, the announcer says today's temperature or tomorrow's temperature, moisture, window, and the light. So, weather is a conceptual unit, day to day. All right. However, climate, if day to day is accumulated, then in terms of long point of view, a region has average weather. For example, Rome in March, then how many days we have rainy? And the temperature is about 20 degrees. In August, about between 25 and 30 degrees, okay? Those are climate. This means average weather through long time. So climate is long-term prevalent weather conditions. So my major is environmental sociology. Maybe the first terminology most of you. See, basically, we analyze the environment from social science perspective. So environmental sociology has a focus on the mutual relationship between environmental and the human socio-economic system, because human socio-economic system impact on the existence of nature, and polluted or destroyed nature again as a feedback impact on human lifestyle and the socio-economic system. So from the environmental sociology, the climate is defined, at least the time interval is 10 years. However, so average weather conditions. Then we have some categories. Oh, this region has this region has this climate or that climate like that. All right, then climate change is the change in average weather conditions or in the distribution of weather event in a region over at least 10 years. Academia, 30 years. So yesterday in Rome, the temperature was 20 degrees, okay? Today, 30 degrees. This is not climate change. This is weather change because the time interval is very short. So at least the time interval 30 years. Therefore, 30 years ago, Rome temperature on average about 20 degrees. However, now 25 degrees. That is climate change because the difference during the 30 years. Okay, I think you can understand the difference between weather and the climate, okay? Then the second one, some issues related to climate change. There are three issues, okay? The first one is climate change is a real reality or not? The second one, United Nations perspective on climate change. Reduction cost of human-induced CO2 emission. As you know, we have to pay lots of money for reducing CO2 emission. in order to reduce 1 ton of CO2 emission, we have to pay per ton $20 or $10 like that. So I would like to introduce 3 issues. Okay. In climate change science, there are 2 categories of scholars. I'm not sure what categories you are on. The one is climate change is a real reality. The rising temperature, rising sea level. Do you think it's a real reality or not? Yeah. The global warming, real reality. Okay. Then we call them mainstream. However, other side, anti-mainstream, uncertain. This is not real reality. This is caused by uncertain climate change science, long measurement, long information, or exaggerated information like that. So no one knows who is right. Then anti-mainstream, they have the climate change is not reality. Therefore, they do not suggest the cause of climate change. Okay. However, mainstream, they suggest the cause of climate. Then again, categories of scholars. One category, current climate change is caused by natural factor. The other group is emission of human-induced greenhouse gas. As we know, 6 global warming substances. All right. Then, what side are you on? Natural factor or human-induced greenhouse gas? The cause. Yeah. So, okay. So this category of scholars, the age of our Earth is about 4.6 billion years. Okay. During 4.6 billion years, we experience glacial period 4 or 5 times. When we explore, investigate the ruin, then we could find before the Earth entered into the glacial period, the Earth get a little bit warm. Then enter into the glacial. So at the moment, this is the period the Earth is entering into glacial. So the warming period just before the glacial epoch, this is called interglacial epoch. Okay, so the Earth is at the moment is faced with interglacial phase. So global warming, this is not caused by human-induced greenhouse gas, natural factor. What side are you on? Natural factor or human-induced CO2 emission? Okay. This is a very hot issue among scholars at the moment. Okay. Then this is the total the information on CO2 emission. Look here, from this, we have about 230 countries. This is the data among 10 countries. China, 1990, the total emission on the Earth, 22.7 billion tons. This year, this amount at the moment, almost 40 billion pounds, all right? Then have a look at among the 230 countries, those 10 countries, they occupy over 50%. Very naughty countries, okay? Only 10 countries occupy over 50%. So among the 10 countries, in 1990, America, USA was the first country in terms of total amount of emission, all right? Then followed by China, Russia, like that. South Korea is here this year. However, the ranking, USA, first, second, China, South Korea, ninth, 230 countries. Small South Korea, its ranking was ninth. Again, from 2008, the first and the second rank reversed. China occupied the first rank, America like that, all right? So South Korea enjoy still the same position, ninth country. So United Nations argues at least 10% of CO2 emission should be reduced for saving to Earth, all right? 10%. Then, for example, South Korea, we can estimate how much we have to reduce the CO2 emission, America, like that, okay? Then, we look here, emission of greenhouse gas since the 18th century, that is industrialization. In agricultural society, 300 years ago, we humans were economically very, very poor, very, very inconvenienced in everyday life, no car, no telephone. So in order to overcome such a poor economic condition, inconvenience in everyday life, we promoted industrialization. So during the 300 years, the industrialization was very, very successful, okay? At the moment, we are enjoying very high level of material affluence, convenience in everyday life. Then, the industrialization was successful on the basis of the sacrifice of nature, because in order to increase material affluence and the convenience in everyday life, we had to extract lots of resources. We did not get the resources from moon or Mars. Yeah, we extracted from nature. Then, in accordance with the increase in material affluence and convenience in everyday life, it was very, very proportional of the sacrifice of nature. So the industrialization, successful industrialization has resulted in sacrifice of nature. Then what happened to the nature? The original quality of nature polluted and destroyed. So this is, we say, the occurrence of environmental problem, a side effect of industrialization. Then the nature is faced with a crisis. However, nature can exist without humans. However, we humans cannot survive without nature. Therefore, the crisis of nature is linked to the crisis of human existence on the earth. So I think we humans, beneficiaries and victims of industrialization. This means we have committed self-contradiction because we made a fire on our house, okay? Then United Nations This is the official point of view on climate change by the United Nations. So United Nations point of view is current climate change is real reality, okay? Then the cause, 20% from natural factor, 80% from human induced. However, according to scholars, the impact of global warming materials, they have different impact on climate change. Some scholars argue CO2 occupies 60. I think all of you, the natural scientists, you know very well the impact of CO2 on climate change. All right. Then some scholars 66%. Some scholars argue 98%. If this is true, then the remaining 5 global warming materials, they occupy its impact only 2%. However, United Nations, the impact of CO2 occupies 80%. Then who has the responsibility? As you know, 300 years ago, the European countries, they were the leading group promoting industrialization. So United Nations, most developed country, they had responsibility 70%. Developed and the developing countries after the Second World War, they had the responsibility 30%. Okay. Then reduction cost. Okay. So reduction sector per ton is different by industrial sector. For example, textile. This is a very simple industry. So to reduce 1 ton of CO2 emission, reduction cost is about $20. However, still industry about $700. And also the different by countries, because each country has different CO2 intensity. For example, South Korea, we emit 0.4 ton for producing US $1,000. In Japan, 0.35 ton. So in Japan, CO2 intensity is lower than South Korea. So if South Korea has been recommended by United Nations to reduce 10%, okay? Because the South Korean emission is ranked ninth, all right? Then I have estimated what will happen to South Korean socio-economic system if we reduce 10%. Then I reached a conclusion: South Korea socio-economic will be bankrupt. All right. Then more than we cannot accept 3% only. More than 3%, South Korea will be bankrupt. All right. Okay. This is some. Then the agent responding, as we know, national or local government, they establish climate change strategy policy. Okay. Then mitigation, adaptation. Therefore, government is an agent responding to climate change. Then enterprise, they are trying to improve eco-efficiency through saving resources and energy, improving resource and energy efficiency, fulfilling social and ethnic responsibility. So before the enterprise has 2 phases. One is contribute to climate change. In the process of resource extraction, they emitted lots of pollution. And in the process of producing goods and service, and also distributing goods and service, they emitted lots of pollution. So enterprise is a contributor to climate change. However, change the climate impact on the management of enterprise. For example, at the moment, very, very hot. So they have to use, in the factory, they have to use lots of air condition. That is losing money. In this sense, enterprise is a contribute and sacrifice from climate change. So now they started to employ green management. Okay. In this sense, enterprise is also an agent responding to climate change. And the civil organization, NGO, I will explain in detail later. And the citizens, they are trying environmental friendly behavior in everyday life, okay? And the United Nations is the base agent responding to climate change, okay? Then the focus of my presentation is on NGOs, okay, among the agents. So the NGO, all non-government organizations, we call NGO. Then the purpose is pursuing public-private interest through governmental organization. Then different NGOs, NPO, non-profit organization, academic, for example, Chemical Engineering International Association, they are NPO, and CSO, CBO, like that, different NGOs. Then, okay, we say the NGO as an intermediate group between, for example, here, okay, here NGO, here citizens, here government, and enterprise. Government launch a policy, okay? Then the policy will regulate the behavior of citizens. And also the policy will regulate the management of enterprise. Then what civil organization is doing, they are very critical on the government policy. They are very critical on the management of enterprise. And however, they are training citizens in order for them to do the environment friendly behavior in everyday life. In this sense, the NGO as the intermediate group between citizens and the government, between citizens and the enterprise. This is press group to government. And this role is educator to citizens, okay? So this is a major role, is press group and educator. What they are doing as a press group to government, the first role is the produce of issues highlighting. Sometimes the government, when they establish policies, some important issues are missed by government. Then NGO, they argue, oh, this issue should be included in the policy. In this sense, produce of issues. And NGO provide lots of information to government. Then the government can learn lots of things from NGO, the information on the state of climate change, the information on the strategies being implemented at a national and global level. Then propose an alternative policies. Then they can argue government, instead of this policy, that policy will be more effective. This is a proposal of alternatives. very, very important roles of NGO, and monitoring on the state of environment in the field. Government sometimes very, very, they do not open. Government they do not open their eyes on the state of environment in the field. Then NGO provide those things through monitoring. So monitoring is also very, very important role as a project group to government. Then to the enterprise, okay. Then the traditional management, the enterprise is focusing on maximizing profit, okay. So when they extract the resource, the nature is polluted and destroyed. But destroyed, polluted nature left as it is. However, when we recover the polluted, destroyed nature, we have to pay lot of money. That is called ecological cost, all right? Ecological cost. So the traditional management focus on maximum. However, and with a lesser consideration of its impact on ecological cost, then NGO argues saving resources and energy and using them efficiently, then minimizing emission of greenhouse gas and environmental problems, fulfilling social responsibility, because nature is common profit. Yeah, okay. Then again, another one is operating system of green management. NGO can propose the establishment of strategy, development of green conduct, and the resource, energy, pollution. Those things are the categories NGOs can do enterprise as the important roles. Then educate the citizens. All right, the human dominance on nature, distracting the balance of nature, the limit of growth, and they teach the citizens how to save resources, how to save energy, like that. This is a major role of NGOs to citizens as an educator. All right. Then the overall role NGO agent, how to perform the roles. There are many ways to do such roles of NGO. So holding campaign, holding workshop, providing education, publishing printed materials, direct participation in governance system in the process of decision making. They can get an opportunity to join. This is the how to perform their role. Then improvement of professional capacity, okay. Their knowledge should be improved. Then they can do the roles more effectively and efficiently. So they rational argument, the bargaining power with the policy-making group, cooperation with the mass media, cooperative activity with the domestic, international NGOs, raising funds necessary for activity like that. They should improve their capacity. If they build such a capacity, then I think they can do their roles more efficiently and effectively. All right. Then concluding remark, NGO is not only an agent responding to environmental problems, including climate change, but also monitor, okay? However, climate change cannot be combated by NGO alone. We need social consensus. So NGO is doing such an activities very actively. And for governments also launches lots of policies However, enterprise and citizens, they do not follow such policies, NGOs activity, then nothing can be improved. Therefore, we need social consensus among all social groups, including enterprise, citizens, mass media, like that. Okay, then government also is required to build capacity, because when government launch policies, as we know, lots of money is required, and also highly advanced technology is advanced. So the government has no way to approach, to access the availability of finance, the availability of technology. Nothing can be done. Therefore, government also try to build their capacity in terms of financial availability, access to the solution of climate, nature-based solution, technology-based solution. Most of you, your presentation are on the basis of technology-based solution in a broader sense to sustainable development, in a narrow sense, climate change. Yeah. The enterprise is also required to transform the management system, efficiency of market economy, to improve the efficiency with a priority to reducing the emission of pollution and the destruction of nature like that. Citizens also, at the moment, their current affluence, convenience in life. If we enjoy high level of material affluence and convenience in life, then we say, oh, I am enjoying high level of quality of life. However, we live in a very better condition. That's not a high level of quality of life. Therefore, in the concept of quality of life, we have to include amenity of environment. Then cultural ethos should be changed from consumerism to environmentalism. Consumerism is defined as we consume more than we need. More than, but environmentalism, we consume as much as we need. Okay, I think you have lots of clothes. Until you pass away, you don't need to buy more. However, you will continue to buy new one. That is consumerism. Consume more than you need. So the current cultural ethos also should be changed from consumerism to environmentalism. All right. Thank you very much for your kind listening.